Hi, and welcome to the AWS Developers Podcast. This is episode 200. So for this occasion, we are welcoming two legends of the Java ecosystem. So this is Josh Long, the developer advocate at Spring, and James Ward, who's a principal developer advocate at AWS. I've known James for a few years now, and I was the one who hired James at AWS. So we are good friends, and I'm super excited to have both of them. It will be a very interesting discussions about what's going on with the Java in 2026, all the excitement around AI, and why Java is the right language to build enterprise application with AI. So I hope that you will enjoy the show, and if that's the case, feel free to leave us a comment, give us 5-star on your favorite podcast application, and also share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you, and enjoy.
We're just talking.
We're just talking. Yeah.
We're just having a conversation.
Is there a point dating it? I don't know. Nobody's ever told me.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, we are going to talk about a few interesting things, hopefully. So welcome to the show, and even if we are hosted on your platform, James, hopefully we will publish that on the AWS Developers Podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you the
wonderful.
raw files, and you can put them wherever you want.
Awesome.
Nice.
Okay, we'll do that. So I wanted to talk to you both because people are saying about Java and Java is dead. So what's going on in 2026?
Well,
you know, why people are so rough with you guys?
Right?
No, okay. So let's start with some intros.
Java folks, yeah.
Yeah. Let's start with some intros, and hopefully we can dive into what all the exciting stuff that you have been working on since almost 1 year now.
Yes.
There's been a lot. We have been around the world together, so it's so many events. Yeah. So and you have not been to Switzerland.
I need to get to Switzerland. Josh and I need to get to Switzerland and bring all the Java AI goodness to Switzerland, because they need the love too.
So James Ward, who are you?
Yes, James Ward, developer advocate at AWS.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm Josh Long, and I'm James Ward's biggest fan, but also an advocate at on the Spring team at Broadcom.
Awesome.
Wait, so let me tell a story to kick this off. So, okay, a year ago at DevNexus, I run into Josh, and Josh and I go way back. Like, we're at almost 20 years of being friends and knowing each other. And so I run into Josh at DevNexus in Atlanta like a year ago, and he's like, I got to show you this cool stuff. And so he sits me down in the lobby of our hotel and walks me through the Spring AI stuff before it actually came out. And I was like, dude, we got to take this on the road, because this isn't just like yes, Java can do AI also. This is like really good stuff. The way that the Spring team has put together the AI capabilities, and of course it works with AWS and Bedrock and all that good stuff, but it's really good. Like it's enterprise like ready, like Spring is, it's like got
And
the
that's not an
security
insult.
stuff. It's not an insult. It's like these AI systems are integration systems, and what is better in the world for doing integration than Java and Spring? So it's just like
and Spring,
the JVM. Yeah, I do some some Scala. And,
the enterprise. This is where I think we need to make enterprise happen again, right? Because right now I see so many. Do you remember that we used to call them script kiddies, right? Like Do you remember that term for like Perl?
Kiddies,
And,
I was a script kiddie at one point. Like it's not
we all do that for.
And then I went enterprise. Then I built an e-commerce site in Perl, and that was a bad idea. And then I rebuilt it in Java, and that was a good idea.
And then someday it worked. Yeah, no, but I mean, the difference between a proof of concept that works on your machine versus something that you can trust and leave alone while you go to bed, and that'll continue running itself, and that has observability and telemetry and scalability and security and all that kind of stuff. That's the difference between enterprise and your very interesting, albeit sort of short-sighted prototype. And so enterprise is a good word in this
prototypes
case.
and scripts and Python and TypeScript, they're not bad. It's just like,
place to start.
if you want to like run a mission critical business application, like the JVM is still the best place to do that. And the industry agrees. We have some data on this now around AI specifically. So Josh and I, we went on the road talking about AI to Java developers all around the world for the last year, since he sat me down in the DevNexus hotel and showed me this stuff. And the reception has been amazing. People are like, yes, I didn't want to build a whole nother stack within my enterprise just to do AI stuff. I wanted to do it with technologies that were congruent with what I was already using to run my business systems and all the back-end systems. And so people were so stoked on this. And now we've got some data to show like that it actually is happening. Like enterprises are using Spring AI, they're using Java to build their AI stuff. There was a study that came out from Azul just last week. It showed that
self-selection bias, to be fair.
There was some self-selection bias in there. I mean, like I'm sure that a lot of Python shops like aren't using Azul or even know what Azul is, but
and I'm sure if you polled all of AWS users, that you would find a very large majority of them are using AWS. So that would be not surprising,
That's amazing. But so the study did say that of the surveyed companies that they surveyed, that
how many
62% were building their AI solutions on Java and the JVM. So so like it's happening. And the thing that's also cool here is like Spring AI is amazing, but there's this whole vast ecosystem now as well. You've got LangChain for J, you've got Kook from the Kotlin JetBrains folks, and then you've got Embabel, which Embabel is the most advanced agent framework in the world. Anyway, sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So we are going too far. So let's start from the beginning.
It's only been a few minutes.
I know. But let's start from the beginning. What is Spring AI?
Well.
And why are you so excited? I think Spring everyone knows, but let's talk about Spring.
At its core, Spring is a component model. If you use it to wire objects together. I know that's a little obvious, but the reason that's important is because that component model gives you purchase. If you understand the component model, you're already 30% of the way into understanding a particular framework that solves a particular problem for a particular vertical. So if you're doing security, you don't have to learn a new component model. If you're learning integration or batch processing or web programming or microservices or whatever, you don't have to learn a new component model. And then same thing for AI. There's a lot of stuff that comes with understanding Spring. And then you get things like observability, you get things like really, really fast native images with GraalVM, you get security, you get scalability with virtual threads integration. And so the question then is, once we've got all that and the runtime that's implied with that, how can we extend that component model and those idioms and those sort of mechanisms to the way that people build AI applications? And then the important thing here is that people don't build AI applications the way that we do in Spring AI, right? They have to rebuild all that stuff. It's a completely isolated world in Python or in the other Java experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then, in the Spring ecosystem, you have this idea of a client. It's very common. We have a REST client. We have a JDBC client. These are fluid builder DSLs. Well, of course, in the AI world, we have a chat client, and so you can build up your interaction with these models, and it can be as simple as just a one-liner, client dot call, and you're done. Or you can add context and user prompts and system prompts and advisors and data and,
RAG, build it up. MCP and all the things.
And it just flows naturally.
I want to make sure
it's a really nice framework that brings AI engineering practices to the Spring ecosystem.
But it's more than just adding some AI capabilities into an existing app, right? It's you can build brand new application from the get-go that would be AI native with Spring AI.
Yes.
So just adding that capability. So it's not just the value
so
of this.
In the larger ecosystem, like there was things called agent frameworks, and agent frameworks were really specific to building agents. Spring AI has the capability that you can build agents with it, but it's not an agent framework because it is a general purpose AI system. If you want to do like one-shot image processing or image generation, like do that. It doesn't have to be an agent, but you certainly can build a whole agentic loop around Spring AI and on top of Spring AI.
But there are integrations again, it's an integration game, right? At the end of the day, the those with the most innovations win, right? So, MCP, it debuted in November of 2024, and I don't know if you remember November, but
it was
a long time ago. And anyway, that
time ago. AI dog years. It was like
1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing dropped, and then in the first waning days and weeks of after its announcement, the Spring AI team built a Java SDK, and that's now the official Java SDK. So it's not just integrating with other people's stuff. Which sort of that is what we did, but we're also like leaders in certain categories that are very important as well. If you're doing MCP on the JVM, you're using our SDK.
Okay.
Yeah, and that SDK, I don't know if you all have announced it, but I saw it's been tagged 1.0. So the Java MCP SDK 1.0. So hopefully by the time we get this podcast out, that will be officially announced. But the tag is on GitHub. So I think, great milestone, and huge kudos to the Spring team for building and maintaining and evolving that MCP SDK for Java.
They're amazing.
Amazing. And keeping up with the pace of MCP changes, like a lot of work that the Broadcom folks put into this. So.
And it's nice. The new the interaction model between the client and the server now, where you can do server-side push, basically. I was just like, I was wondering how they were going to model that in this new component model. A few annotations, and it just works. It's very, very elegant. Feels natural.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to summarize, Spring AI is not just an LLM wrapper, right? It's much more than that. It provides all the abstraction that you need to be able to build AI with Java. So not only agents, but also, as you said, different capabilities, and you can generate some images, as you said, or a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, you can use Spring AI just as an MCP server. So I have an MCP server now for my book, Effect-Oriented Programming, and it is an authenticated MCP server. So you have to auth to it. It's built in Spring AI. So I'm not actually there's no LLM in my MCP server that's in Spring AI, but I'm using Spring Security to do the OAuth stuff. And it's amazing. Like everything's just super good.
MCP tool call.
Yeah. Authenticated MCP tool calls to get my book through MCP, because who wants to read books anymore? Why not just plug the book into your AI? And so, you could just go into cloud.ai, add my MCP server for my book, and get the book in the AI.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
But anyway, all built on Spring AI, which has nothing to do with an LLM in my MCP server's case. Like the LLM is, wherever you want your LLM to be. So
you can connect that you can call that from a Spring AI app, or more, in your case, the Cloud Code or Cloud Desktop, or whatever.
Plug it into your Cloud, plug it into your ChatGPT, whatever. Yeah.
So what are some of the use cases that you feel are different from another framework, like let's say LangGraph or LangChain? How is that different?
I think there's a few things for me that stand out, and I'm not a huge expert on some of the Python frameworks, but the biggest thing is that we really want to bring type-safe compile time validation to everything that we can. And so just as an example, of course, you can do structured outputs from Spring AI, from the chat client call, and you can map that into a typed object. You can pass objects around. Your advisor chain can deal with typed objects in and out. So the advisors are a way to get a middleware for the chat client. So you can add things to the prompt. You can pull things out of the prompt when the responses come back. That's what memory is built on. So there's a whole chat memory system. So all this stuff deals with, it's built on the foundation of Spring, and then statically typed objects everywhere we can. You add your advisors in to this call chain. You can, it's all let's get to reliability. And if you want even more reliability, then built on top of Spring AI is a framework called Embabel. And that adds a whole nother level of kind of reliability around AI. So it's like whereas I think a lot of the Python stuff is all like stringly typed, you're like if you mistype string in one place, like all of a sudden your workflow stops working. Like we don't want that. Like that's not enterprise.
The graph itself is described in terms of these stringly state endpoints, or whatever nodes.
Yeah. So let's do everything with like the enterprise grade, level around AI.
And I know that sounds, again, we just talked about security. Good luck securing your MCP tools in other ecosystems. And those types you just mentioned, those types are really important because there's plenty of places where we need to express types in our daily AI engineering workflow. So for example, structured output mapping, that requires a type. In Python, that's schema that you have to write and then send to the model. In Java, you just have a type. It's just there. There's no extra work required. If you're doing MCP, that's schema.
Yeah, in Java, why is it interesting for an agent? Because an agent is just processing strings, right? So why is that important, or what's the value of manipulating objects instead?
As with all things, it's the people, right? At the edge of the LLM, because you're right. Once you, I think James had a Freudian slip there. He called it a string, and behind the scenes, it is all just the almighty string concatenation operator, right? With AI, but this isn't about AI. It's about making the codes, writing the code in such a way that we can trust the inputs and the outputs at the edge, right? At the boundary of our interaction with the model. And so those types help us reason. They help us build abstractions. They help us incorporate the inputs and the outputs of those interactions with AI models with the rest of our systems, which still exist and need to scale, and need to embrace these new AI workflows. So types are still very important.
Yeah, and on the output types,
reason.
Yes, they do. On the output schemas, so Bedrock now has support for native output schemas and typed objects. And so I think it works. I need to test it, but I think we can now with Spring AI, this is like all just, came out in the last week or so with the Bedrock side, but I think we can now with Spring AI use the native schema support on Bedrock so that when you get a type out, it's actually essentially the Bedrock service that is validated that your output is going to conform to a particular schema. And then when you on the agent side go to then actually map it into that object, you're sure that mapping is going to work in the right way. So that's like at the end of the day, it all is just like strings, but we want to create abstractions over those strings so that we can have some confidence when we go into production that we haven't like screwed something up because we like mistyped a string somewhere.
And the models, the vendors, like you just said, there seems to be some consensus that the model should help us with that. Like they're moving towards that as well, because it's otherwise, a paragraph of human language text is not an abstraction upon which to build an API. It just isn't.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's so many good kind of avenues to Spring AI, and we could go into RAG, and we could go deeper into MCP, and we could go into the ACP. Advisors, ACP. Oh yeah, the ACP stuff is cool. Like the agent utils now with skills. Should we talk about agent skills?
Yeah.
Should we talk about my new project?
Yes, please. Yes, please. That's so cool. It makes it palatable, consumable.
Okay, let's talk about it now. Okay,
let's go there.
We can talk. I'll talk about skills for a second here.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to mention the distinguished competition or?
Sure. Yeah, no worries.
One of those other LLM providers, whose name rhymes with, I don't know.
Embabel.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, them. One of they provided this if MCP is a way to give your model the ability to have executive function to do things, skills are a way to give it a shortcut for learning a bunch of things, kind of like in the Matrix where Neo, learns a bunch of languages and learns all that stuff, learns how to fight quickly. You want to give your model some direction, and it's instead of copying and pasting a wall of text, you can give it very, very specific instructions on how to do a thing. And you can even give it scripts to validate those things, the inputs and the outputs to that thing. And so the question is, how can I conditionally, when appropriate, have a description of this new workflow, of this new process and whatever. That's called a skill. It's a text file that you keep on your directory and you can plug it in. Spring AI supports that as well. So, it's not tied to that one of your distinguished competition. Right?
Anthropic. We can say Anthropic. Don't worry.
Yeah, you can use
it's
Spring
okay.
AI.
It's so good.
So Anthropic defined the agent
Bedrock.
skills standard, and it's pretty simple. It's like, okay, you have a skill.md file. It has front matter. The front matter has a name and a description, and then potentially some other metadata in it. And then that allows your agent, whether it's a custom agent or like your off-the-shelf AI code assistant, to then read those skills, and then those can then augment the prompt and the capabilities of the agent. And so Spring AI has a AI community library called the Agent Utils, and one of the utils in there is a skills tool. And so because it's a tool, we can just plug it into Spring AI into the chat client, and then get support for agent skills just built into Spring AI into its kind of agentic flow.
Yeah.
And if you use these AI agent skills in some way make money, you are obligated by law to announce that you have the skills to pay the bills. That's just a fact. It's a fact.
Got the skills to pay the bills. Yeah. So this is like pretty fresh, the agent skills support for Spring AI. I think it's maybe a month ago that Christian added it.
You know what my biggest problem with skills is, James?
What's that?
How do you package them?
That's a good question, because what typically happens is you basically like clone a GitHub repo of skills, which is just some like MD files and potentially some Python scripts, or potentially some JBang scripts, whatever. And so you clone that down into a directory, and then you give your agent access. You point it to like, here's the directory. Curo has a default. So in Curo, the default skills directory it uses both a global directory, which is your home directory .curo/skills, and you just dump all your skills in there. Or you can have a project-based skills directory, which is, your current working project directory, and then Curo/skills. Okay. So that's the typical way that people do this, is basically just cloning repos down. And
what could go wrong?
I wanted a little bit more rigor around how we can consume these agent skills. So I just created something called SkillsJars. I don't love the name, but it just makes sense. And SkillsJars are taking agent skills, putting them into jar files, and then putting them up on Maven Central so that you can set a dependency in your package manager, Maven or Gradle or whatever, on a given skill. And then you could even create like packages of skills, because you can do transitive dependencies.
Sure.
And then how do you want to actually consume these skills? Well, it depends. If you're in a Spring AI application with the skill tool, then it's just going to read these things out of the class path because you have a dependency on them. Boom, you're done. If you want to actually then use them in a AI code assistant, you do need to get those skills onto the file system. And so now I have Maven and Gradle plugins that will take the skills that you have dependencies on and then unpackage them into the correct directory for your AI code assistant. So
okay. But
this is
why would you do that why would you do that for an AI assistant? Because they understand MD5s. So that would be direct. But
so there's a few reasons for this. One is that maybe you're in a large organization. Yeah. You have some standards around what skills like you want every developer to have access to.
What version of them.
What version of them. Maybe you're going to put those through security review before you allow those to go into the build definition, whatever. And so you want to have maybe some structure around what you allow and what things developers get out of the box. If you're like a single developer on a project, like some of these things don't matter. But if you're on a team of thousands of developers, maybe you want some standardization and some compliance and other things to have some guardrails around what people can do there. And so now you can manage those agent skills as dependencies, and then you can pull them through to what do people use now for their like proxies to Maven Centrals and other package managers like JFrog or Artifactory.
Nexus.
Yeah, Nexus. So you can then only allow certain skills to be pulled from the corporate Nexus server or whatever. But so then once you've set those standards of what you want to have defined in your build, then the developer just runs the Maven or Gradle plugin. Maybe they put that into an agents.md file to tell it to run that for them, whatever. And then that's going to copy down those onto the file systems so that then the AI code assistant can read them. And I think at some point, like some of the AI code assistants will have like pluggability around this sort of thing, so that maybe it'll just automatically discover, like, based on this particular build system, we know how to get the package manager based agent skills. So that's one side of it. Another side real quick is that I foresee that there will be a point in time when things like Spring Framework will actually ship a Spring skill, and that will actually just get pulled in automatically to your environment if you're using Spring. And so I think that there's going to be kind of library and framework based skills that you don't want to have to like think about, let me go get this skill. Like let's just do that automatically. And by doing package management based skills, then we can do that automatically. Like that's just a transitive dependency or whatever. It's going to be trivial.
Super important to have these things flow through the same security channels as all the other dependencies in the system, because they are, if anything, the most dangerous. They're literally like, they can just ship arbitrary scripts and stuff, right? We've all seen some of the nightmare scenarios, right? Like to have that in a package and a version that we can point to and we can audit and all that is very important. Very, very important.
So just to summarize what you described, I mean, I think you talked about two use case for the SkillsJars. One is for your AI app, and we are going to talk about it. But the one that you describe is more about the AI coding assistant. So a developer can use a list of SkillsJars to their project, so they get some. They can use, for example, in a regulated industry, where you have to follow some, you have to make sure you are compliant with your regulations. You can follow some strict rule. You have to follow strict rules about the versions that you are using of
being able to produce a BOM of everything that you use. And the licenses of everything that you use, and
but in the world of where AI is coding more and more of the or producing more and more of the code that companies are producing, it's going in all directions. So basically, having the skills is kind of a guardrail, and also give the guidance to the AI coding assistant to write as per the rules that have been defined in the company.
The way I look at skills in general is they're just like augmenting the agent with some knowledge that it's going to have kind of more weight than the general universe of knowledge. And so one of the interesting things about agent skills is that I think a lot of the things that are and were MCP servers really probably should have just been agent skills, because they were just providing some instructions, just like this augmented knowledge. And of course, agent skills didn't exist, a year and 3 months ago. So it makes sense that people started just using what was available with MCP. But I think that we're going to see a little bit more clearly defined roles for MCP and for agent skills. Agent skills are really about like this, like knowledge, very particular knowledge segments that you want to give your agent, this skill. And then MCP is going to be more about, I have an API I need to call. I have something that I need authorization to, and so something or some resource I want to protect. And so we'll kind of see the MCP stuff stick more in that side, rather than what even on the AWS side, we have a bunch of AWS MCP servers. I think a lot of those could just be skills, because all they are is like, here's how you use this thing. Like, it's just like general information instructions. So, I'm glad that agent skills exists, and glad that it's going to kind of more clearly delineate what you should use where.
Yeah, 100%. There's Microsoft. Was it Microsoft? I think I don't want to misspeak. I saw something recently that suggests that basically a focused single shot call to a model can be more productive or more useful than multiple accrued interactions. There's a caveat though, which is that you've got to be focused. It can't just be, here's all the data I know in the whole world, and here's all the tools, every tool in the whole organization. Now do the thing, right? Because it'll just get lost. And so the more narrow you make the parameters of its work, the better the outcome is likely to be. And so one of the things I love about skills that it has this progressive discovery, right? You can actually have a whole catalog of skills on the class path or in the directory or in the file system, whatever. And it can discover based on the analysis of it that it does on your particular question or prompt or whatever, whether it might need a skill. And there's actually a little header in these little skills.md files that gives it a summary of why it might need that thing. And it can decide or not decide to load it because it's a long text file. And you don't want to pay the price for consuming and moving those tokens around if you don't need it. And you certainly don't want to do it if the skill isn't necessary, if it's not required. So this gives the model a way to trim its own sort of dependency while also sparing you from having to do that same if-else logic when you're building up your prompt. You don't have to decide, hey, do I think I might need this? Copy and paste this giant paragraph of text, So it's better.
Yeah, and James, you said earlier that the skill jars can be, calling other skills jars. So you can create a collection of skills jar and interconnect it. So you would disclose, dynamically the information that the agent would need at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and we definitely could come up with ways to do that. There is a little bit of a syntax in agent skills to essentially say okay, this skill needs this other skill. And so I think there is a potential way to actually build up a hierarchy based on that metadata, so that then you could traverse down the hierarchy as needed. But I think all of this stuff is still pretty new, and we're going to have to evolve some of the stuff like the Spring AI agent, the skill tool resolver. We'll have to build some of that logic into, but we certainly can now that we have the foundation to build on with getting these things into package managed libraries.
So good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the other part, which is more how an agentic application, not a coding assistant, but an agentic application can leverage those skills.
Like you're building your own custom agent with Spring AI and you want to use skills. Yeah, so there's a few interesting places for this. Some of the skills are very oriented to code assistant use cases, but some of them are more general. And so as an example, there's one that's like a PDF generation skill. And this is one that Anthropic created. And so let's say that, you've got a chat interface for your, airline support system, and the user is like for some reason asks for a PDF of their baggage information. Instead of having to have that logic, that you actually write a bunch of code to be able to generate a PDF from some data that is available in this chat conversation, you could just plug in the PDF skill, and then on the off chance that in this random conversation the user asks for a PDF of their baggage information, you're like, I can do that. I've got the skill to be able to generate a PDF. And so the skill would provide that capability.
And also, you can, because it has the ability to generate, you can give it script, so it can do things as well, but a lot of times it's just a text file that enriches the world of knowledge, like you said, and it gives you practices that it may not, as a general model, know, right? So another example that I've been thinking about are, what if we built an expense reporting thing? I'm going to need something that guides the model in how to, for our purposes, for our corporate purposes, itemize that particular receipt, and that'd be very natural. I can give it, hey, here's an image, itemize it, but here's a skill to tell you exactly what I expect you to have extracted out of that picture.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Is we've seen some places where MCP was used for corporate policy type of things. Is you could use you could put things into your system prompt, or you could come up with some mechanism to take your travel policy and get it into the prompt, or you can just put your travel policy into a skill and expose it as a skill, and then with the skills tool, like pull that in. And so there's, architecturally a few different ways to accomplish some of this, but it'll be interesting to see, like, in the more enterprise use cases, do we see skills used as these like system prompt augmentation devices, and with package managers, then you can version them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where that particular thing goes.
Select them based on use.
Yeah,
that's, I think the real thing is I want a way to winnow down, to trim down my requests, and to be focused. I mean, that's the name of the game. Whether you're doing agentic frameworks, which have you build up a complex solution by creating a bunch of steps, narrowly focused steps, right? That's what these agentic frameworks are doing. Or even in that's a good idea, right? Have narrowly focused steps. But if you're not using an agentic framework, you want to at least make sure that one request is as narrowly focused as possible as well. So good idea all around.
Yeah.
So we talked about Spring AI earlier. So and you mentioned several times Embabel. So I guess we should talk about it.
Yeah.
So and also the difference. So I think from your description, Josh, earlier, Spring AI give you the building blocks to build anything AI. So chat clients and vector stores and RAG and prompt templates, all the good
audio
stuff.
Transcription.
Anything, all of that. So you have all the building blocks that you can plug to different providers,
right?
And everything can run on AgentCore, for example.
Yeah.
But what about Embabel? What is that? Is that a competitive framework, or is it something that is built on top, or how does it work? Okay.
So I would look at Embabel as more as like an agent framework. Like, it's going to create a higher level abstraction over some of these agentic systems that you may need. And so Rod Johnson, the guy that created Spring, created Embabel, and his, I think, like, really rethought agent frameworks from the ground up. Like what is it that we're really trying to accomplish with RAG and with memory and some of these other concepts? And ultimately, how do we get to higher levels of reliability with these agentic frameworks? So just as an example, when you in Embabel define a workflow, you essentially stitch the workflow together with types. So back to the whole world of like some of the benefits of Java is that you don't define your workflow in strings. You define in Embabel, you define it in types. And so then Embabel has a planner that can figure out how to deterministically get through a workflow by chaining together the input and output types and then conditions that are required to be able to move through the different steps of the workflow. And so it is this like agentic framework, but it ultimately is trying to get to this like higher level of reliability, and it's built on Spring AI. So you can always drop down to, the foundations that we've been talking about already.
And that's you mentioned the strongly typed. That's as compared to the competition in the rearview mirror, things like LangGraph, which is you actually have strings to denominate milestones in your graph, in your state machine.
Yeah. And I think Embabel is really trying to give you goal-driven agents with planning, right? And you chain them and you define the type. So that's what is also very different.
Yeah, and so initially Embabel started with a planner. So the planner is the thing that like creates the orchestration for the agentic framework. The initial planner was called GOAP. Goal-oriented action planning. And this is like, okay, I give the thing a goal that it's going to achieve, and it's going to figure out the workflow, with the LLMs, with the RAGs, with the memory, with all the different pieces to get to that goal. And so that was the initial planner. But sometimes you don't have a defined goal. So like in the case of like an airline chat support system, there is no particular goal. And so just recently,
airline, not Erlang,
right? Airline.
There's no helping.
Yeah, it's one
Erlang.
of my like it's a fun example is because I've used some of the airline support AI chatbots and they're awful. And I'm like, if they built these on top of Spring and Embabel, maybe they wouldn't be awful. But so airline, not Erlang. So airline, in an airline chat bot system, there is no goal, right? And so Rod just recently added an additional planner that you can use depending on which use case you're in. And this planner is a utility-based planner. And the utility-based planner can basically do a chat loop until the user says like I'm escalating, I need to escalate to a human, or the human says like, okay, you've helped me accomplish what I needed to accomplish. And so then one of the nice things about the Embabel architecture is that the actual planner is an abstraction in the framework. And so while he provides now 2 different planners, you could also build your own planner. So there's the goal-oriented action planner, the GOAP, and then there's the utility planner for kind of general chatbot use cases.
Good. All right. So you not have to choose between Spring AI and Embabel. Basically, those are 2 complementary things. One is
complementary. You're choosing Spring AI.
Yeah.
If you choose Spring AI, you're choosing Spring AI.
Yeah.
Works right.
Yep. Yeah. So large ecosystem of options and I think one of the fun things right now is that there's a lot of different pieces to building these agentic systems, and where do you use RAG? How do you use RAG? How do you vectorize your data? Do you use S3 vector stores? Like there's just so many different pieces to when do you use MCPs? Do you use in-process tool calls, or do you use remote MCPs? And so I think we're in a fun space as developers where we get to learn how to build good agentic systems and architect what's going to work well for our business goals. Like, super fun time to be in this space.
Do you work with RAG at all?
Sorry?
Do you use RAG at all, actually? No?
Yeah, do you? So, I mean, there are places that it makes sense, but...
So this is where the power of the abstraction comes in, right? You keep on asking if it's just a wrapper around these things, and it's not. It's a framework on top of these abstractions, but those abstractions are valuable because they give you plug-and-play ability, unlike what we were hoping for with Windows, right? And so is there a common surface area across different LLMs? Yeah, sometimes, but that's not always the case. What about vector stores? No, they're very different, right? Like there's no standard protocol for vector stores. And the same thing for image creation versus transcription and all that. There's different SPIs, and all of them have different shapes. And then you get to things like observability. Like if I want to talk to, Datadog versus Dynatrace versus AWS stack versus whatever, right? Like Graphite and Grafana and Prometheus, that's all different. And so again, because it's all just described in these nice, well-defined interfaces, you can pick and you can plug and play, you can mix and match, and this is why I said earlier, you can use skills in your Spring AI app with any LLM. We made it portable. It started off as a thing unique to that company whose name we won't name mention again.
And well, just to say it explicitly, in Spring AI, there is a RAG system, and that RAG system works with 24 different vector stores now. So whatever vector store you want to use, so that's the power of the abstraction is that you can have one way to do these things. I've just recently been working with Spring AI and SAP, and SAP has added support for their SAP AI system in Spring AI as well. And so like the value of these abstractions is so not to be understated, just how important it is to have commonality across these different areas of AI, the way that we architect AI systems. And the Spring AI folks have done an amazing job with creating the right abstractions in the right places for the right use cases. And well done.
And then you get
Spring folks.
We also have a Spring AI community. So out of the box, we support dozens. It's like 20 plus different models, 20 plus different vector stores. And by the way, not all vector stores are created equal, right? I had the pleasure of sitting down with developer advocate extraordinaire Jennifer Reif from Neo4j. And Neo4j is a great tool for doing graph RAG, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have a vector store implementation with that, and that's interesting, right? Like, I mean, it's the same SPI as the other vector stores, it works and just plug it right in. But the fact that you can unlock these capabilities on the side is just wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I know that we have to rush because I had a problem with my network, so we started very late, and you have a few minutes left. So I just wanted to make sure that we have you can share some closing remarks and maybe share some stuff coming up on the roadmap or some new stuff that are coming up.
Yeah, so one of the things for me is that I've been working on is in the Spring AI community that Josh mentioned, where a lot of things that are not like core to Spring AI, but are necessary, helpful pieces are being built.
Or they're just moving too quick.
Or they're moving too quick. That's a good point. It's like shaky. Evolution is rapid. So we've been working on the Spring AI AgentCore module. And I think we're at RC8 on that now, so getting pretty close to a 1.0 release. And so that supports the ability to run your Spring AI agents and MCP servers on AgentCore. And then it also has support for AgentCore memory. The cool thing about the memory module that we did is that you don't actually have to run your agents on AgentCore to use the Spring AI AgentCore memory stuff. You can use it, you could run your agents on Kubernetes and then just use the memory system of AgentCore. So we've got the memory support. We've got the browser support. So, you can like have a browser that you tell them navigate around stuff. And then we also have the code interpreter support. And then we're working on observability, getting observability all kind of make sure that that's all connected. Like ideally we want the Spring AI observability just to connect with the AgentCore observability. And so we're trying to get that wrapped up now. But yeah, I think that's a super exciting project. Like let's use all this great Spring AI stuff on AWS, on AgentCore. Yeah,
that's cool. Awesome. So just AgentCore is a set of primitives that Bedrock is offering to
I guess we didn't actually
run and build agents. Yeah. So you have runtime, which is basically serverless containers that can run your agentic workflows. You have memory, you have evaluation policies, gateway to get access to MCP services and others.
Yeah, you can run your MCP servers on AgentCore. You can do A to A on AgentCore. So it's like you're full on. How do you run the agentic architectures in the cloud? AgentCore is the way to do that.
We have a hand raised.
So the question is like, why would you want to run your Spring AI things on AgentCore? And I don't think we actually talked about that benchmark. It's not just that we have the same capabilities or better. I think it's actually better because we have nice, strongly typed systems. But it's not just that it's a better integration with all these things. It's also way more performant, right? Did we talk about the MCP benchmark briefly?
We did talk about it, but we should mention it. Yeah, there was an MCP benchmark. It benchmarked Python, TypeScript, Go, and Java, and just like looked at performance, memory usage, that kind of stuff across those different ones. And Spring AI and the Java MCP SDK was amazing, glowing. Yeah. I mean, the one place where it didn't do awesome was on memory usage because there's, the JVM like is very memory hungry. But Christian, our friend who works on Spring AI and MCP Java SDK, he's been working on taking that benchmark and doing it with GraalVM, which is a way to turn Java applications into native applications. And in that, the memory usage just drops dramatically. And so it's like, and so I think, if you do want to really reduce your memory footprint, you could take your same application that you've built for the JVM, turn it into a native image, and boom, you're saving memory and starting up instantly. Yeah.
So they did in the benchmark, they looked at Java, Go, Node.js, and Python. Java had the lowest latency at 0.835 milliseconds compared to Python's 26.45 milliseconds, right? It did the most requests per second, Java did, with 1,559,520 requests per second versus Python's 280,000, right? It had the lowest CPU utilization. It was 28% of the CPU was being used by Java, whereas Go used 31%, Node used 98.7%, and Python used 93.9%, all to get, again, less transactions per second and fewer requests, and with higher latency. So Java,
I
on the
think
JVM came across a clear winner here, right? Like
that's great.
It's going to get better with GraalVM.
So the last question maybe I should ask is, where can developers get started on Spring AI today? What are some great resources?
Spring.io. By the way, also come see us at. Is this going to come out before the show?
DevNexus.
Yeah,
we're at DevNexus next week in Atlanta. I don't know if this will come out for them.
Events, touch points there. Come say hi. We're going to be there.
And you will be in Zurich, right, Josh? You will be at Vox Days in Zurich, end of March, no?
Yeah. End of March?
Yeah, you're going to be there.
I guess so, yeah. I haven't booked yet. Yeah, yes. That sounds vaguely familiar.
I was thinking about going, but I don't know if I can swing it.
Man.
I don't.
Come on.
That's going to be tough. It's going to be. I really want to go.
You just got to get a ticket to Europe somewhere.
We'll train there. I will be there.
I know. Ramon's going to be there. Josh is going to be there. Then of course there's great documentation around Spring AI. That's a great place to get started. There's great documentation around Embabel if people want to kind of jump to that next level of abstraction.
And you have so many videos that you.
And we have so many videos. Just go search on YouTube for Josh and I, and you'll find one of our videos where we walk through everything. And
including on YouTube, Coffee Software. We got a channel there.
Yes. True.
But by the way, so like and subscribe. We're going to do a lot more. Just the stuff we've been talking about today. I've got like ideas,
Perfect. Great. Okay. So last question: who should I interview next? Who should I get on the podcast?
Well, you got to get Rod on, right?
Yeah, I need to get
more
Rod
detail on Embabel. Yeah. And then, Josh has so many great people come on Coffee and Software. Just go look at Coffee and Software. He gets all the awesome people on there.
I will have a look at it. Perfect. Yeah. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. And sorry about all the problems that we had in the beginning, but I'm glad that we were able to spend that time together and talk about Spring AI. So many things that are happening that are so exciting in this space. So really cool.
C'était un vrai plaisir. Merci.
Merci.
Thanks, Romain. That was fun.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.